Good morning. My mom's a veterinarian and she put together an emergency chicken box. Let's see what's inside.
Okay, here we go. We've got a lot of stuff in here. Most of this stuff you can get at your local feed supply store, tractor supply companies, and if all else fails, Amazon. A lot of this stuff is also at Fleet Farm if you have a local Fleet Farm as well. I'm going to try to go through this as quick as possible. Hopefully we don't even need to use most of this stuff, but down the road as we do, we will show you what we use and what we use it for. Okay, on the top here we've got a few smaller things. We've got chlorhexidrine. This can be used to clean up any wounds that you find, or even like little small scrapes and cuts. Usually you dilute it in some water. These are some little nitrate sticks. They're used to control really small bleeding areas. So if like we had a cracked nail or something and you needed to control the bleeding, a really small area of a cut on a chicken, like on their beak. But be careful, if you put it on, it stings a little bit. So make sure that you've got a good hold on them. We've also got some gauze squares to help clean up, and then we of course have our electrolytes and probiotics that are usually used for our babies. We've got a small pack of Tums in here that's used for egg-bound chicks to help give them extra calcium really quickly. We've got some surgical glue. If you can't find surgical glue, you can also use super glue in a pinch. We've got some little medical tape, orthotic tape, and also Prid. This stuff is really nice because you can use it on cuts and scrapes and irritations. Just put a really thin coat on the chicken, because if you put it on too thick, the other chickens will peck at it. We've also got a little pen light that you can pick up pretty much anywhere. Some syringes that you can use to draw up some of your medications that you'll see below. Okay, next is our compartment here that we've got. We've got the selenium goat gel that you had seen us use in our FLHS video, talking about when our beautiful little buff Gertie died. This is an extra supplement that can be used when a chicken's really stressed out, or also if you think that a chicken could have fatty liver hemorrhagic syndrome, you want to give this as a supplement for them. We've also got some Vetrimycin Plus. This stuff is really good on cuts and scrapes. It's a little antibiotic spray, if you will, and it's non-toxic and works really well for chickens. We've also got some eye ointment. You can actually get Terramycin ointment online at most places without a prescription from your veterinarian. We use this because I've got a prescription, so I can kind of subscribe whatever I'd like, and I can get it really dirt cheap. We've got some triple antibiotic ointment that you can use on cuts and scrapes as well, especially if you need to put it into a little wound. You probably want to use that versus the Vetricin Plus. We've got a hemostat that can help pull out any little things to help if chickens get anything stuck. We've got our Nutri-Drench, which has got your vitamin B in it mainly that we're looking at. Again, we also use this on our chickens to help prevent FLHS when we were suspecting it in one of our buffs, and we gave it to the rest of the chickens just as a precaution. This stuff is really nice when they're stressed out, like when they're molting and stuff. You can actually add it to their water or give it directly by their mouth with a little syringe. Okay, for the rest of the bin, we've got some hen healer. This is also some ointment that you can put on cuts, scrapes, dry skin, little rashes, etc. There's no egg withdrawal time, which is good for that. We've got some just basic gloves, hydrocortisone cream, which can also go on little rashes or cuts and scrapes. As long as you have an open wound, I probably wouldn't use this, but you can certainly use it if there's an irritation. We've got the Vet RX. I use this when chickens have any respiratory symptoms. It's basically like a Vicks vapor rub, and it's safe for chickens. We've also got another little kind of pen light. This has got a little magnifying glass, so in case you need to look at something up close, it works really well. Got a little suture scissors for cutting stuff if we need it. And then lastly, we've got meloxicam up here. Now, meloxicam is an anti-inflammatory pain medication that can be used off-label in chickens. Unfortunately, you have to have a prescription for a vet in order to use this. Chickens are really good at masking their pain, so if you've got a chicken with a wound of any sort, I use this. You do, however, want to make sure you work closely with a vet on getting a good dose. That way you're not overdosing your chicken. Just a word of precaution too, even though it's a very small amount and you're probably just fine, there would be an egg withdrawal period if you were using meloxicam, especially if you used it more than one time. I think I also forgot to mention we've got Rooster Booster Pick No More. It's a lotion that helps kind of prevent chickens from picking at themselves, especially if you've got a stressed out chicken or a rooster. Okay, now onward to the big bin on the bottom. I'm going to actually lay everything out and just go over it really quick in a row so we can try to make this video as short as possible and as informational as possible. Okay, here's everything laid out. I'm just gonna kind of put it into groups and talk about it really quick. First off, we've got some more of our medical supplies. So we've actually got an IV starter kit, and I use it more so because it's got a bunch of gloves and emergency sterile products. This is a suture kit. I use it with more so for the tweezers if I need it. We've got some Q-tips and some cotton balls. We've got more chlorhexidine solution. Now this is the one that we get directly from the vet, and it's super strong. So you have to dilute it in a bottle. And if you ever get this stuff, you basically just take one of these bottles, put a small coat on the bottom, and then fill up the rest with water. It should be a really light blue or almost like a sky blue, even lighter than this color. Next, we've got a stapler, and if you ever need it, we do have suture that unfortunately is on back order right now, but you can actually get suture through Amazon too. We've got a bunch of gauze sponges. This would be needed in a pinch to try to help control any bleeding. And this is actually Vet Spawn, which I believe you can get on Amazon if you can't find it at your local tractor supply store. It's actually, if you have any little wounds that are bleeding, you can take some of this. It's sterile, so you'd want to put on your sterile gloves from your IV pack, and you can actually pack a little bit of this into a wound, and it's not going to cause infections, and it can be used in a pinch to help control bleeding. Lastly, we've got our Vaseline. We get tubs of this stuff. We actually use this to apply to our wattles and our combs of our chickens when it gets really, really cold outside. It helps create a barrier on our chickens' combs to help keep them and prevent from frostbite. Okay, next we got a couple products that you use for your egg-bound chickens. We've got Epsom salts that you can soak them in. You can also use Epsom salts for small wounds and little skin rashes too. It helps heal it up really nicely. And then of course KY jelly, you can put that around their vent to help kind of get that egg out. And then of course the Tums for calcium that I showed you earlier. Okay, these next two would be used for sour crop. So if your chicken got into moldy food and they've got a nasty crop and it's usually a fungal infection in there, the first thing you'd want to do is try to withhold some food and water as best you can for about 24 hours. Some people will put mineral oil in there, or you can even do olive oil in a pinch. Just be real careful to make sure when you give it to them, they don't aspirate it, because if it goes down the wrong tube, you're in trouble. Then you gently massage the crop, and a lot of people will also give apple cider vinegar. A lot of people actually put this into their water, which you certainly can. I would just kind of rotate it and not do it on a really regular basis, because if you do, sometimes it can lead to the eggshells becoming more soft. Okay, these next two are if you want to naturally treat lice, mites, or fleas. As far as neem oil, a lot of people will dilute that, put it in a spray bottle, and spray down the coop a couple times a year, especially those dark crevices, or if you have wrapped nesting bars or roosting bars that's wrapped with hemp. It's nice to spray those every once in a while because that will kill the lice and mites. A lot of people also use poultry protector, and it can be used as sprayed on as a every couple time a year basis to help prevent lice and mites. We haven't had a problem with that yet. We use natural wood ash from our fireplace in our dust baths, and that seems to keep away everything so far. Okay, here's a few more probiotics, electrolytes, and vitamins and minerals that I recommend having on hand. HydroHen is obviously a 3-in-1 probiotic and electrolyte solution. It can be used in bulk if you've got a lot of sick chickens that are going through a really bad molt, or if you've got sick chickens that are dealing with lice and mites or fleas, which they would be dealing with anemia or blood loss. You can treat it by just putting it directly into their water and treat a big group of them all at once. We've also got poultry cell. Now, poultry cell we used in a pinch when we suspected FLHS in one of our chickens. It's kind of your all-in-one amino acids and vitamins. It does have your vitamin B, it's got your selenium in it, it's got L-lysine, methionine, and a lot of your really good booster vitamins, minerals, and amino acids. You can actually mix it directly into their water, or you can give it to them by mouth too, as long as you know how to do it. It's good to do if you've got a sicker chicken or a group of them, to just put it directly into their water. Lastly, we've got liquid vitamin B12 or vitamin K. This is used for FLHS specifically, which is fatty liver hemorrhagic syndrome. If you don't know what that is, check out my video that we were talking about it when one of our hens, Gertie, died suddenly and we diagnosed her with it. It's a good thing to be aware of and know what to watch for in your hens to see if any of them get it. Liquid vitamin B12 and vitamin K can be helped with a really sick chicken. As you see, I have everything labeled here, so if I'm not around, my kids or my husband can treat a sick chicken really quick. But this is used to help increase red blood cells, help increase their energy, help increase their appetite and weight gain. So it's a good one to have on hand. Again, you can use the poultry cell as well, but I don't believe there's a lot of vitamin K in the poultry cell. So when you've got a really sick chicken, I would use the vitamin B12 and vitamin K. And when you're kind of treating more chickens that just seem kind of off, that's when I'd go with the poultry cell. You can actually give both of them. Just be careful that you're not doing them too often and too frequently, because you don't want to give them too much of these vitamins and minerals, because then it can hurt them too. Okay, and lastly, you have some of your dewormers. The Corid is really good for coccidia, so if you have an outbreak within your coop or some of your babies, it's a good idea to have that on hand to treat. This is actually fenbendazole. You can get it in larger liquid bottles. However, usually it needs to be prescribed through your vet. If you can find it online, buy it and hoard it, because it's actually quadrupled in price and it's really hard to get. This Safeguard fenbendazole can be purchased off of Amazon or probably at PetSmart or any of your pet shops. It actually comes in little powder packets, so you have to be really careful how you're dosing it too, and make sure you're following a veterinarian's instructions carefully. I have fenbendazole on hand because it treats most of your intestinal parasites, including tapeworms, roundworms, cecal worms, the flukes, gateworms, threadworm, etc., gapeworms, etc. So it's nice to have on hand in case you get a group of chickens that get sick. There are other dewormers that you can have on hand as well, including praziquantel and albendazole, otherwise known as Elbon. However, those don't tend to treat as many intestinal parasites. So the fenbendazole, if you're gonna kind of get one that gets everything, I would get that one. Okay, so that is our emergency kit that we will use in a pinch. I know a lot of times there aren't a lot of vets out there that are comfortable treating chickens, and a lot of times you're kind of on your own. So having an emergency kit like this can make all the difference in the world, especially when it comes to a sick chicken and you've got to act fast and you can't find anybody out there to help you. I hope that you find this video informational and helpful. Please feel free to leave any comments if you have any questions.